Hi, this is Les Levine, the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Ohio sports. I like Freddie Kitchens. That doesn't mean I want him to stay on as coach of the Cleveland Browns. Supposedly, part of the reason he got the job is his closeness with Baker Mayfield. Let me give you a management tip right here. I once worked at a radio station where a sales guy, everybody's friend, was named general manager of the station. Unfortunately, it was a bad move. Some people had to get fired, and it was very uncomfortable. Similarly, Freddie is now the boss, and his relationship had to change with Mayfield. I don't know if it did or it didn't, but I'm guessing that's part of the Browns' problems. If Kitchens stays, he's got to know that he's the boss. He's no longer everybody's best friend. We've got Jim Ingram here tonight. More Sports and Les Levine is on the air. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les Levine, it's a Monday night, it's a brand new week. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les Levine into our 24th consecutive year. Wow, time just went by fast. And exclusively on cleveland.com. Jim Ingram is here with, we'll get the book in the next segment, the Mike Hargrove book, which is hot off the shelves.
Yeah, not too hot, though, but it's handleable.
You mean you can buy it?
Yes, you can buy it, yes.
With red hot cash.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you've had a couple of signings?
More than a couple. Yeah, we've had probably 8 or 10 maybe.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
well, good for you. Keep it going.
Yeah,
Christmas time, stocking stuffers.
Perfect
and all that
time
stuff.
of the year for a stuffer.
There you go. All right, Jim, lots to talk about. We'll talk about Corey Kluber a little bit later. Let's start. Former Indian.
Oh, okay.
Corey Kluber. But let's start with, you may want to have the same reaction. Let's talk about Freddie Kitchens.
Yes. Yeah. This is one of the most amazing, even though, this is a horrible season, but what's happening with that team, I don't think anybody predicted this.
No, and exactly. It's entertainment almost every week.
In a morbid sort of way, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's like watching a train wreck or something. You can't take your eyes off it because you can't believe you're actually seeing this happen. A team with this much talent that can't get out of its own way and can't even beat one of the worst teams in the league.
Well, hey, they lost to two guys with quarterbacks who were undrafted. Right?
Yeah.
You name it, they've done it this year.
Maybe the Ravens will sign some guy off someone's practice squad and just throw him out there, since those are the kind of quarterbacks. You want to
rest Jackson?
Yeah, they can beat the Browns.
Yeah. Why don't we call the Ravens home? You may want to go easy on the Browns. Put in a kid quarterback; he can still win.
Yeah, because the Browns have already beaten their number one guys.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's provable evidence.
That's by the way, one of the most unexplainable outcomes of this NFL season, don't you think?
What the Browns did to
not only
Ravens?
beat them, they blew them out almost,
right.
Basically, 40-25, whatever it was.
All right, so now you've got a game that might have been important. It isn't anymore. Well, it is for Baltimore now.
Well, I'll tell you what it's important for is this might have been the tipping point for Kitchens. Maybe, I don't know.
When you say this, you're talking about the game in general, or you're talking about any specific incident?
The game in general, but the fact that with the playoffs still kind of there before the game, to come out and not even be competitive against a team that everyone's just been kicking to the curb every week.
And a couple of the things that needed to happen did happen.
Yeah. Almost as if to highlight the fact that what the Browns did was unacceptable.
Right. All right, so it's unacceptable. What does that mean? What's the next step?
Well, you play the last two games, and they're almost certainly going to lose to Baltimore, and I can't imagine them losing to the Bengals, but I also couldn't imagine them losing to the Cardinals.
All right, so that sounds like a 7 or 9 season to me.
Yeah, which would be worse than their record last year, right?
Of 7.
What was it?
7, 8, and 1.
Yeah. And they had half the talent they had on this team. This is not a good. Everything, in my opinion, everything that's happened this year, at least 90% of it, points directly to the head coach and his situation. And it's not his fault that he's never been a head coach before. But this is the kind of season sometimes you get maybe with a guy that's never done this before, because it almost looks that it almost looks like he's trying to keep everybody happy. So he's keeping nobody happy because the offense is just horrendous.
All right, so what do? I mean, you be the owner, except you got to understand you've already written millions and millions of dollars for guys not to coach.
Yeah.
And that's not just the head coach. You know, you're talking about coordinators and other people who might have had 3-year deals. And Jimmy Haslam, I think, and Dee Haslam, for the most part, have stayed out of things publicly this time.
Yeah, and that was something we interpreted as a good thing at the start of this season, and the season itself is turning out to be not much different from all the ones that preceded it. If I was in charge now, I would make a coaching change just because you can't allow this to keep going. And the one thing they've never done, even before when Lerner owned the team and then when the Haslams, they've never hired an experienced NFL coach with a proven track record that has done this. Yeah, but he was only like maybe 2 years, maybe. Yeah. I mean, but a guy that when he walks into the room, the whole team knows. All right, now this is a guy that's done this. We respect him because. To me, the one thing that stands out most to me is the way they play their games and the way they carry themselves and all the things they've done this year. It looks like a team that doesn't respect their head coach. And never mind whether Freddie can coach or not. If the players don't respect you and won't play for you and allow you to lead them, you have no chance. And that's what it seems like it's become here.
All right, let me talk in general terms here. When John Dorsey was named GM, the last 4 games of the one season. Mm-hmm. We all assumed that he had in his hip pocket a list of 3 or 4 guys that he would take as head coach if he ever became the general manager of a team.
Yeah.
It doesn't look, in retrospect, it doesn't look like he had it. And conversely, when Freddie Kitchens, a 10-year or more veteran of the lower coaching ranks, you would think if he had designs on himself becoming a head coach, that he would have the PowerPoint presentation that was given before from what's his name? San Francisco coach. Help me out here.
Oh, the one now?
Yeah.
Shanahan?
Oh, Shanahan. Yeah. Kyle Shanahan, who was here, had the 42-point PowerPoint presentation. You would think Freddie would have it, but it's just like Freddie is like an old-time coach who paid his dues, and, when it's time, it's time.
I would, if I had to guess, I would say that what happened with Dorsey is he, like the rest of us, and certainly I was the same way. We just fell in love with what Freddie did as a play caller in the second half of last season, and that just kind of maybe Dorsey did have a list and he intended to go to it, but when he saw how that season finished out and how prolific the offense was, he couldn't tear himself away from Kitchens and what it looked like he had maybe a burgeoning really great coach.
All right, but my point in Truth and Reason a couple of minutes ago was that you can't be the guy's best friend and then all of a sudden be his boss.
Right. Well, that happens. That happens, and the assistant coaches become head coaches sometimes with the same team they're with.
Right.
And assistant coaches are more friendly, I suppose, with the players than the head coach. So that can happen, but it just I think the worst thing that happened in retrospect now is how good the team played for Freddie when they made the switch, at least the offense, because this year it's the exact opposite with a lot more talent.
And then they added star power on top of that.
Yeah, and it's just the whole thing. I just don't see a lot of leadership from Kitchens. The players clearly don't want to play for him. I mean, that was pretty disgraceful yesterday, I have to say, the way they just kind of rolled over for
and the Jarvis Landry thing was interesting. I thought that he was upset because the Browns, he was 4th and 2, down by 11 points, and Freddie went for the field goal, which is un-Freddie-like, by the way. And I thought that Landry was trying to say you should have been going for the first down.
Well, we'll never know. I mean, I just assume when there's arguments like that in the NFL today and on any team, it's whoever the player is complaining that he's not getting a chance to do enough.
All right, so tell me what's wrong. What's next on the agenda for the Cleveland Browns? 2 more games to play.
Well, I mean, they'll finish the season and then I presume have meetings about whether they should bring him back or not. And
you don't think it's decided already?
I don't know. Well, maybe it is. It could be. I don't know. At this point, I think yesterday's game, if I was Dorsey, I would have seen enough after yesterday's game and everything that came before that to make my decision.
I had also said a couple of weeks ago that Pittsburgh started it was a bigger deal than Freddie Kitchens made it
The
out to be.
T-shirt, yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, that to me, that was the one where he lost me, and maybe he lost the team, because that was a bad idea on like